RCR is in trouble. That's not a hot take. That's not some vague whisper from insiders. That's not fan speculation or social media noise. That's Richard Childress himself, a NASCAR legend, a man who's seen everything, going live on the team radio and saying the quiet part loud, "We are in trouble. We have got to get some race cars." Period. No sugarcoating, no PR spin. Just raw truth from the top of the mountain.
Got to get some damn race cars. I've seen enough out of our drivers and teams. We got to work on this shit.
And that radio moment came right after the Dover race, where Kyle Busch, one of the most decorated drivers of this era, finished 11th. Now sure, that result on paper, not terrible, not a disaster. But in context, it's damning. Because while Busch was grinding for every inch of track, the top 8 positions were completely swallowed up by 2 powerhouse teams, Joe Gibbs Racing and Hendrick Motorsports. It wasn't just that they won. They controlled the race like puppet masters. Every restart, every tire strategy, every caution flag. They had the field in a chokehold. And RCR, they were just hanging on. Kyle Busch ran top 10 for most of the day. He had flashes. He showed his experience. But when it mattered most, in those final 30 laps, the car just didn't have it. He slipped back, muscled it into P11, and parked it. Respectable, maybe. But that's not what Kyle Busch is here for. That's not what fans want. And it's certainly not what Richard Childress signed up for when he brought in a 2-time champion. This isn't a team trying to make headlines. This is a team that used to write history. And right now, they're drifting. Let's take a step back. Since Kyle Busch joined RCR, he's had flashes of brilliance. He's overperformed the car. He's been in the mix. But here's the stat that tells the real story. 0 wins, 2 seasons, no checkered flags. That's not a Kyle Busch problem. That's a car problem. That's a team infrastructure problem. That's a performance crisis. Busch is currently 15th in the point standings. Not terrible, but again, it's a mirage. He's there because he's outdriving the equipment. He's dragging that car into places it doesn't belong. But how long can he keep doing that? How long before the frustration bubbles over? And the playoff picture? It's tight. Busch is 39 points below the cut line. He's made up some ground. A few weeks ago, it was over 70. So he's fighting. He's clawing. But here's the harsh truth. If just one driver below him wins a race, he could be out. That's how fragile it is. And with the state of RCR's cars, that's not paranoia. That's probability. So what is Richard Childress supposed to do? This offseason, RCR shook things up. They brought in talent from Stewart-Haas Racing, new engineers, fresh ideas, new crew chiefs, even Austin Dillon, Childress's own grandson, got a new crew chief in the form of Chase Briscoe's former guy. And yet, nothing has changed. Austin Dillon has been stuck in the same loop for 3 seasons straight, 29th, 32nd, and now 28th in points. One decent showing at Richmond, but not a single race where he looked like a serious threat. And here's the part no one wants to say out loud. If his last name weren't Dillon, would he still have that seat? That's the uncomfortable question. But it's one that's hanging in the air like tire smoke after a burnout. The bigger issue? Engines. RCR builds its own motors through ECR engines, and it's not just for themselves. They supply Trackhouse Racing, they supply Cowlig Racing, and now we're hearing complaints, not whispers, but straight up frustration. AJ Allmendinger's had 2 blown engines this season. Trackhouse drivers, quietly grumbling about speed. They've tried different setups, different packages, but the results are flat. When 3 separate teams with 3 different driver rosters are all struggling with pace, the common denominator isn't hard to find. The engine program may be broken. And you know what that means? It doesn't matter how good your crew chief is. It doesn't matter how elite your pit stops are. It doesn't even matter if Kyle Busch is in the car. If your engine is lacking horsepower, you're not catching Gibbs. You're not catching Hendrick. You're not even playing the same game. And as the playoffs inch closer, the pressure becomes unbearable. 5 races to go before the cutoff. Every lap, every stage point, every pit call matters. Kyle Busch is grinding. He's giving everything he's got. But one more mistake, one more parts failure, one more week of getting outpaced, and this team could be watching the playoffs from the outside. And then what? That's where the real drama kicks in, because RCR picked up Busch's contract for 1 more year. But that's it. After that, he's a free agent. And if the offers come from teams with better speed, better cars, better infrastructure, why would Kyle stay? Let's be honest, teams are watching, they're lurking, and if RCR can't prove they're still a top-tier operation, they will lose him. And if they lose Kyle Busch, that's not just a talent drain, that's a PR hit, that's sponsor dollars gone, that's credibility down the drain. And for Richard Childress, that's personal. This is a man who watched Dale Earnhardt win championships in his cars. He helped build this sport. He knows what greatness looks like. And right now, his team doesn't look like that. So when he gets on the radio and says, "We're in trouble," it's not just about points or pace. It's about legacy. It's about RCR no longer being feared, no longer being respected, no longer being relevant. That's what's at stake here. And fixing it? That's not a simple engine swap. That's months of R&D. That's major staff restructuring. That's investment, commitment, urgency. And they're almost out of time. Every race from here on is a fork in the road. Every lap is a referendum. Can they save this season? Can they get Kyle into the playoffs? Can they convince him and the garage that RCR isn't finished? Or are we watching the slow, painful unraveling of one of NASCAR's most iconic names? If Busch makes the playoffs, maybe it buys them breathing room, maybe it stalls the panic. But if he doesn't, this offseason will be a storm. Major personnel moves, sponsor shakeups, engine program overhauls, maybe even leadership changes. And yes, it's now a very real possibility that Kyle Busch could walk. Because Kyle's not here to babysit a rebuild, he's here to win, and if RCR can't deliver that, someone else will. This is where the story turns from racing to survival. RCR isn't just racing for points anymore. They're racing for identity, for legacy, for relevance. Because once a team falls far enough out of the conversation, it's nearly impossible to claw back in. That's why these next 5 races, they're everything. So now we ask you, can Kyle Busch pull RCR into the playoffs and give this team a second chance? Can Richard Childress reinvent his operation one more time? Or are we watching the sunset of one of NASCAR's last great legacy teams? Let us know in the comments. Because this is bigger than one race, bigger than one driver, bigger than one season. This is about what happens when a giant falls behind, and whether they have what it takes to get back up again. Buckle up, this is far from over.